Hello,
Hello,
how are you?
I'm well and you?
Good. Well, that worked easily.
Yeah, it did.
My
You can
mind
see
is
me, yeah?
tricking me. Yes,
It's very
very
good.
well.
Awesome. Thanks for inviting
Awesome.
me.
Okay, I'm awesome. It's so lovely to have you.
Thanks,
So, for
Candace.
those of you that are watching, welcome to Resilience to the Core podcast with Candace Bester. This is already episode number 8, and I'm so excited to have Abigail Sachs with us tonight. So a little bit more about Abigail. Abigail and I met through an organization which is called More to Life. And we have done a lot of introspection and personal development over the years. But Abigail is a mom of 3. She's a wife and an attorney. She is a facilitator for the programs called The Power of Proactive Parenting as well as The Power of Self-Esteem at More to Life. She also sits on the board of ECL South Africa, which stands for Enhancing Children's Learning. And she does child, teacher, and parent workshops. So she's also studying to be a law mediator. She does private coaching, and she's also now a distributor for Young Living, which is your essential oils, because she really wants to empower people to make wellness it needs to
A
be a
priority.
very big part, a priority in people's lives. Thank you. So, welcome, Abigail. It's so lovely to have you. I don't know if you want to say anything more about yourself.
Not much more, but just to say this is my first live event on Instagram. So thank you all for watching, and I really appreciate the opportunity, Candace. And I know how much,
Thank you.
effort you've put into growing Grit as an organization to empower other people. So really, I'm very happy to be here, and thank you. I acknowledge you for all your efforts.
Thank you, Abigail. And thank you for finding your yes. When I asked you, you definitely didn't hesitate. You were very excited to come on board.
I am.
So, before we start, I just really want to put it out there that none of us, neither you or me, proclaim to be a perfect parent. In actual fact, we have bumped our heads many, many times, but we hold our hats on the fact that we have done heaps and heaps and heaps of personal development and introspection, and we actually live this work. So it's very easy to read something and then give people advice, but when you've lived it and you can work from experience, I believe that it is so much more powerful. So tonight's topic, I really want to hone in on the whole thing of living, thriving versus coping. Let's be honest. As a parent, it is so easy to get caught up in that rat race, to be on that hamster wheel, and to literally wake up in the morning and to hit the ground running. However, when we are living in this space, we miss out on so many things. And for me personally, if I can just explain, when I am on that hamster wheel, where I'm feeling overwhelmed, where I feel like my life is chaotic, I really feel disconnected and I feel like I miss out on a lot of the most important things that are going on around me. And one of them is the relationship with my children. So when I look back in that space, there's always regret. Oh, I wish I hadn't been so reactive. Oh, I wish I had done my work before I did that. So I believe that and personally, the more work I do, the easier it gets. And in the beginning, it is hard to take the very first step. So I'd like to ask you, how do you see the child in the parent-child relationship? So I've spoken about how we are on this rat race and we need to do our work, but let's speak about the child for a moment.
Yes, so before I answer that, I think it's important for me to say that despite all my education and my learning and the degree and whatever, all of those things, my greatest learnings have actually been from being a mom, from raising my kids. They've taught me my greatest life lessons. And each one has come to teach me something different, which I think is, and I really want that for all of you. And that's why I said yes to coming tonight. So I think it's really
Beautiful.
important. I'd like to start off by maybe explaining my opinion and the way I view children and parents. and it forms a big part of like my desire to do family law mediations. And that is, I see children as that they are the biggest contributors to society, and they are our greatest teachers, and that's the way I view children. And we have, each of us have been blessed with either being a parent or being a child to our parents. And when we acknowledge their presence in our life and we're able to show gratitude to them and the role that they play, we are actually able to see them as a mirror that mirror for us, so that we can see our insecurities and our deep-seated beliefs. Or it can be on the flip side, to say they are there so that I can find my purpose and my true potential in life. So that's the way I see children. I think that they come into this world innocent and pure and have such a desire to do good. And it's the society they grow up in that then shape the adults that they become.
Abigail, I don't know what it is about you, but when you speak, I have non-stop goosebumps. So I completely agree with you, but what a different mindset to think that we need to be grateful because our children are our biggest teachers. So when your child is giving you a hard time, as opposed to blaming them to say, you've made me angry, you didn't clean your room, they're actually bringing us our gifts, and we need to be grateful for that. It's such a different way of looking at it.
Yeah, yeah. And the way I view my opinion about parents is that a greater and more appropriate parent for your child there could not have been. So there's a reason why you are your child's parent, and there's a reason why they are your child. You are the leader in their life, and there's a specific purpose of why you've been put together. And when you step into that role and you acknowledge that, you are able to fully accept that role that you play in their lives and also take on the responsibility. But very simply, at the core of things, a lot of the time, like I hear of parents that don't feel worthy. Either they don't feel worthy enough to raise their children, or there's certain things they feel guilty about. I always say to them, at the core of things, you gave your child love, and just simply by that fact, you are worthy. All the rest is either an opportunity or for growth, or it's a bonus. That's just the way I see. So that's the way I see a child's role and the parent's
role. It's a very, very different perspective, but I totally am on the same page as you. I spoke about surviving versus thriving. What is your take on that, Abby?
So I thought about it a lot, and I thought in order to make it simple to understand, I said, what, let me divide it into two realms. This is the way I see it, and you can always ask questions on the Instagram, or give me your opinion. So the way I see it is I would divide parenting into two realms, the physical realm and the spiritual realm. So what I think, like in the physical realm, it's the day-to-day tasks that we do with, raising a family and looking after our kids. It's the lift schemes, the feeding, the looking after, the tantrums, the sleepless nights, all of that falls into the physical realm. And yes, that's very important for the child's development and for the child to thrive. I mean, imagine a child who's hungry cannot learn. So that aspect is very important, and it forms most of the part of our day, if you think about it. It's just the day-to-day things that we do all the time. And also, like, our survival instincts can come into play when we're in the physical realm. We want to feed our children. They want to eat. So it's a lot of the physical instincts come into play there. And this is actually the place where a lot of parents start feeling overwhelmed. They feel like weighed down by all the responsibilities. It could be financial burdens, anything like that, emotional stress. And then things start spiraling, and the behaviors come into play over here. But before I go there,
and that's the space that really is, and I really want to paint that picture, because it really is just living day to day and just getting tasks done. And I don't even know if we can call that living. So I really want to paint the picture. Yeah, that really isn't living.
Yeah. Well, my desire really is to teach people that there is another realm. Yes, we of course we need to do the physical. We want to, but there's also a spiritual side to parenting. And so then I'll discuss that now. So then the spiritual side of parenting is what happens when we feed that side of ourselves. It's almost like feeding our souls. It feeds us with the energy so that we can do the physical aspect of parenting a lot easier. It doesn't feel as heavy, if that makes sense. So I've written a few, practical examples of what living in the spiritual realm means for me. It might mean something different to you, but it's just some ideas, and I'm welcome to more suggestions. And this is all coming from personal experience, things that I've used, things that have helped me, things that have helped me grow as a human being. Never mind with parenting, that's just like a bonus, but just for myself.
Yes.
So the first
I'd love to hear. I love the practical part.
Yeah. The first thing that I think is so important is gratitude. And what does gratitude say? Gratitude, what does it communicate to our children or to anyone around us? It's saying, I wouldn't be here without you, and I honor you for that. So it's saying, yes, I can do a lot on my own, but I can also ask for help. And when I show my gratitude, what does it do to the whole system? What is it doing to me as a human being and to those people around me? And I mean, what a powerful thing to be able to say to a child, I'm so grateful to be your mom. How lucky am I? How often do we say that? That forms part of a spiritual realm. It's a much higher realm of parenting. And how powerful would it be to show gratitude to our employees? It doesn't only have to be with parenting, or showing gratitude to those who came before us, our parents, our grandparents, our family. And it's also about showing gratitude to the world we live in and to the tools that were given to us in order to fulfill our task. And our kids, they pick up on this. They pick up on this behavior. Even if I don't tell them, you have to say please and thank you every time someone gives you something.
I just had a thought, because it's very easy to be in gratitude and to be grateful for them when things are going right and when they're behaving and everything's going right. But I think the power lies in being grateful when things are going wrong and to express that. I think that we can show them that it's okay to not be okay. And one way is to explain to them, you're actually also bringing me gifts, and I'm so grateful to you for that.
Yeah. That's amazing.
Okay, what's next?
The next thing, so it's so interesting, just before this live thing, talk that we're doing now, we had an IT guy at our house setting up the, what do you call it? Like in internet protection for the kids on the Wi-Fi.
Okay, like a security thing, yeah.
Like a security thing, yeah. So, and my husband says to me, okay, so we've done this now, it's great, when the kids grow, whatever, as the kids grow up, they start searching for things on the internet, but at least we know that we've done our share. But I could see he was feeling a bit, he was saying, there's so much you can do, but it comes to a point where you're still out of control. These teenagers come up with, and he was telling me the latest stuff that these teenagers are using to bypass the internet protections. So I said to him, you know what? It ties in exactly with what I've prepared for tonight. And one of the things in the spiritual realm of parenting is prayer. And I said to him, what does prayer communicate? What does it say? It says, the cherry on top of all my parenting efforts is surrendering to the unknown and praying for my child.
Trusting.
Knowing that we're not always in control. Actually, we're never in control. We can choose to make, we make choices to be safe or whatever it is. We can make choices. But at the end of the day, do we really know what will happen? And the answer is no. And I think
so the irony, the irony with the word control is actually when you think you are in control and you are trying to control everything, you are the opposite. You are actually out of control. the control comes from being able to surrender and trust. And like you say, you could do that through prayer, and some people do meditation. I'm sure you're going to get to that. But the irony is the more we try to control the things that are not there for us to control, which is our children, the more out of control everything gets.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And also the power of breath, and as you were saying, meditation, I was going to mention that in this part. The power of breath or meditation, that's the breeding ground for freedom, really. It's to say, yes, I can make choices, but at the end of the day, I surrender to the unknown because I don't know what will happen.
Because in reality, I mean, you could go through every worst case scenario that you could ever imagine, and you could get every single thing you could possibly, you could spend millions of rands trying to protect your children from all sorts of things. But at the end of the day, is that even a guarantee? So it's much better to just go, you know what, I trust that my children are going to be safe, and I trust that they're going to come to me for advice, and I trust if you think about how it feels in your body, that controlling and needing to know and playing out the worst case scenario versus surrendering and trusting. It feels completely different.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. And the next thing is acts of kindness. Acts of kindness. What does acts of kindness say? It says, we are all one. Your joy is my joy. Your pain is my pain. It's being aware. It's being aware, because a lot of personal development work is being aware and noticing what is going on around me, and your kids pick up on that. So I'm aware, I can see what's going on around me. I don't have sunglasses or whatever it is, and I'm blind to what's happening. I'm noticing people's emotions. I'm noticing your emotions. What can I do for you? What can I ask that you do for me? So these acts of kindness are really, really important.
Thinking about being aware, this is just something that's just quickly come to me, is what is, if we had to say, like on the table, what is the difference between being aware and not being aware? Living a life in awareness and living in a life not in awareness. It would probably, if I had to think about it, it would probably be the coping versus, the thriving versus just coping.
Yeah.
Yeah, survival mode is when you're not aware, when you don't, I don't know if you want to elaborate on what you think that looks like, being aware versus not.
Well, I know for me, the way it plays out, when I'm aware and I'm noticing, I notice my breath is just, paced and slow and normal. When I'm not aware and I'm in a rut and I'm just, being reactive, I notice my breath is, I'm not breathing. I'm either not breathing or I'm breathing too fast. I don't know if any of you have ever felt that, but when you're in that, you're like, oh my God, I'm not breathing, or having a panic attack, whatever it is. That's just the one thing. The other thing I notice is when I am aware, I'm so much less judgmental and more understanding. When I'm not aware, I'm judging big time.
That's so true.
Everyone's different.
And probably,
it's about noticing.
And for me, it would be being reactive versus responding. You react. Well, for me, I react more. Being more driven, like physically, when I'm not aware, is I actually physically, my body functions differently. So I'll move faster, I'll talk faster, I'll be doing things. But it's so funny because in that space, you actually get less done. You think you're moving faster, but you're actually creating the opposite. Yet again.
Exactly.
Sorry, with regards to this virtual realm, are there any other things that you wanted to bring up?
There are a few other things there are a few others. And the other one was stories and inspiration. So that really helps when the going gets tough and you just need a bit of a pick-me-up. Whoever joined us tonight, that's like we're telling a story, really. And how powerful is it to tell our kids stories? It just adds that extra element of fun and inspiration to our daily life. And also telling your story. What is stopping you from telling your children your story? What did it take you to get here? It took a lot. And we don't often talk about that.
Yeah, because we want to look like we're coping. We don't want to be vulnerable. We want to look like we've got it all together.
Yeah. And then what message does that send to them?
100%.
Yeah. And then the next thing was encouragement, the importance of, verbalizing really what it is that makes them special. What is it that makes us special? It's acknowledging ourselves and acknowledging them.
Mm. And I want to add in something there, because I believe you've just spoken about stories, and I believe that people also enjoy listening to stories and they learn so much from it. And when this, so I believe that the old way of thinking is we used to reward children for the results. So when they did well, that's when they got the praise. But for me, and the way that I now with grit and everything, what I really try to focus on is to reward them for the process they got in there. So it's kind of like the effort. And then this morning I had a very cool story to tell. My little guy, who's 6 years old, his eyes shots open and he was like, I don't want to go to school. So I was like, just carried on getting dressed and getting stuff done. And he was like, but I don't want to go to school. I don't want to go to school. And he started to get a little bit more urgent about it, like, you're not hearing me. So I noticed, first of all, I said to him was, okay, so remember that you're fully in control of this. So it was so funny. I said to him, right now, you're saying, I don't want to go to school. You're saying, I don't want to go to school. And how are you feeling in your body right now? Like, how are you feeling? And he says, I'm feeling good. Because he knows that if he says bad, that I'm going to coach him or I'm going to try to process him or something. So I said to him, okay, but now how are you really feeling? And he was like, he didn't want to admit it. So I said, okay, so we're going to school either way. So right now what you can do is you can shift your thoughts and go, I'm so lucky to be going to school. I've got friends. I've got an amazing teacher. Or you can say, I don't want to go to school. Either way, you're going to go. And when you get there, you're going to probably not have the best day. I promise you, Abby, it was like a switch in his head. He said, okay, can I have chocolate milk? And then I said to him afterwards, I came and I kissed him and I said to him, I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of you, how quickly you managed to shift that. And for next time, when he shifts his mindset, he's going to remember that it's because it takes a lot to be able to do that at that age. It's 6 years old.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, as opposed to, so I didn't focus on that he went to school. I focused on the process that he shifted his mind to make it easier to go to school. Can you see the difference?
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah.
I love that story. I love that story.
I've got lots more, but we don't have 3 hours.
Yes. And in the physical realm of parenting, it's most of the time it's come, hurry up, we're late for school, let's go, come drink your chocolate milk, come. But what you did, I think, falls into the spiritual realm, in my opinion.
And every time we stop for a minute out of that rat race and we tune into that spiritual realm, the results astound me. Because I think to myself, if I continue to say, we've got to go, it would have created an absolute mess by the end of it. So it is really much about taking that 1 second to just connect, because that's ultimately what they're actually looking for, I think, is that connection. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's also nice for us to have that connection. Like, parenting can be exhausting if it's always only just about the physical and getting them to school on time. It can be so much more than that. These are humans that we can actually connect with. The other part I wanted to talk about is purpose, and how powerful when we say to our kids, there never was and there never will be someone like you again in this world. And there's something special that's just for you to do, and like just for me. and we'll get there. Yes, we may stumble, but we will get there. And I'm here to cheer you on. I think that's really important.
Beautiful.
Yeah. The next one, which it's the one I'm most passionate about, the most, is language, our use of language. So every single word that comes out of our mouth either has the power to destroy or to create. And that's that. That's just the way I see it. I'm sorry if it sounds too black and white, but that's just the way I see it. And children pick up on our language, even if we think they're not hearing us or listening. And when I say language, gossip falls into that. Judgment, words of judgment against other people, resentment, swearing, whatever it is, that all of those elements that fall bullying, that fall into language, I'm super passionate about, and I'm very, very particular about my language. I'm very aware, and I hope that my children will learn from my example. That's really what I can say about language.
No, that's very, very powerful.
Yeah. The next one, which is also really important, is being present, our ability to be present. And what happens when we are present, we are able to actually have fun and play. Because the element of play is very difficult when you're not present, when you're not fully present. And kids do pick up on that too. So I'll just say a very short story. So I was going to put my child to bed, and he has another bed in his room, which I can sit there. And usually, like, what I do is I just take my phone with me, and I either do my work or I scroll whatever through my phone while he's trying to fall asleep. But then this specific night, this was last week, I thought, oh, I'm actually tired of my phone. And my husband's been talking a lot about, our kids can see what we're doing, and we're such a big example to them. And I thought, no, let me just put my phone down. And I took my book and I went to sit next to him so he could fall asleep. And I'm busy reading my book, Braving the Wilderness by Brené Brown. I highly recommend this book. And so he looks at me reading, and he's like trying to fall asleep, but he can't fall asleep. And then he's looking at the title and he's like, what does that mean? Braving the Wilderness. I said to him, no, it means the ability to have courage in times when you may feel scared or you don't want to do something. It's being brave to do something. And I explained to him that the wilderness doesn't always mean going out, let's say, to the forest. It can mean anything in your life that makes you feel sometimes scared. So I said to him, have you ever been in this situation where you felt scared to do something, but you kind of mustered up the courage and did it? So he said, yeah, actually I have. Once we were playing hide and seek, and I decided I'm going to go hide in the shed where the lawnmower is. And it was very scary because I know there are mice in there, or there could be mice in there, but I decided I'm going to hide there because I know my siblings won't be able to find me. So I said, oh, that's amazing. That's very brave of you. That's very creative thinking. And then he fell asleep. But then later on, and while I was also preparing for this talk, I realized, what did it take for me to have this conversation with him? What did it take? It took me being present. That opened up the conversation. If I had my phone with me, I wouldn't have been present. So that's just one example, but there are many.
It's beautiful. Beautiful. And there's two things that I want to comment on. The word being present is quite a buzzword, and we see it all over the place. But I actually saw something recently, I can't remember where I saw it, but they said, like, what does that even mean, and how do you practice being present? And first thing in the morning, when you're showering, to just totally notice, and that is where my mind is buzzing the most. So to feel the water and to feel the floor under your feet, and to notice the warmth of the water, and to literally find a way to still your mind and to not have any thoughts. And I actually had to I had to say things to myself like, I am here, I am here, I am here, I am here, I am here. Because when I'm saying that, no other thoughts can come into my head. And that's exactly it. So your children will know when you are distracted, and they know that you're not there. And then eventually what they're going to stop doing is they're going to stop coming to you. They're going to come to you, and then they're going to see you're not present, and then they're going to stop coming to you. And then what a big thing you're going to be missing out on. The next thing that I wanted to speak about, when your husband says that our children are watching everything, I don't think people understand how true this is. And I sometimes coach parents, and they'll say to me things like, my child speaks to me terribly. They are so disrespectful, and I can't believe that, 7-year-old, 8-year-old would speak to me like that. And my first question is, where do you think they've seen that? And it's always such a difficult thing, because every ounce of behavior, you mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, you mentioned that they're born pure, they're born innocent. So every bad behavior that they pick up is because they've learned it from somewhere. And I've seen this so many times where the parent is screaming at the child, screaming at the top of their voice. And then the child acts out later and they can't believe that the child is so disrespectful. So your child really is a mirror to you. And when you say we need to be grateful because they bring us our biggest gift, whatever they're doing, they're actually just mirroring what we do. The other day I was so triggered. I saw this dad putting his child in the car, and the cutest little 2-year-old with all these little curls. And I don't know if she wasn't moving fast enough for him or what, but he was just smacking her as she was getting into the car. It took everything inside of me not to get involved. But I was like, then she's going to go to school and that's what she's going to do. And then you're going to say, I don't know why my child smacks everybody. So that's just, I went a bit off the topic, but that was just two things that when you were speaking, I thought about.
No, I love that. And I was going to get to that at the end, but I can talk about it now. No, that's amazing, really. And you're right. My last point for spiritual parenting was leading by example. It's to say, I will lead with my integrity, I will do my best, and be true to myself, and I will lead by example and live by what I think is the truth. But the catch to that I would like to share is that it comes with the proviso being, but I won't judge you if you don't do the same.
That's beautiful.
I think just let that sink in. Yeah. So then beautiful. What you're speaking about, leading by example. So only in the last 3 years I've been introduced to family, the concept of family systems and family constellations. And for those who don't know what that is, I'll explain a little bit. And I'll be running a workshop so people can experience it in October. But basically, children have these invisible feelers. So they can sense, even if they don't see anything, what we do, or even if they don't hear anything, they know exactly what is going on. They know exactly what is going on. And it affects their system, even if they don't know what the event was. But these invisible feelers are able to sense that something is out of balance. So the way we behave, the way we treat others, the way we live our lives has a direct impact on those who come after us.
I see that with my children. My son, he's very intuitive, and he'll say to me, "Are you okay?" And I'll say, "I'm absolutely fine." He'll go, "No, you're not." And then I was like, "Okay, let me just check in properly. Okay, you know what? You're actually right. I'm not." So yeah, you can't pull the wool over their eyes.
Yeah. And it's such a shift from the question, how do I discipline my child, versus what is my child coming to teach me? Really, it's asking a different question.
It's so beautiful. And my children now, because it's totally different, and because this is a big part of the program that I teach with grit and with our emotional triggers and every single thing. Obviously, I'm teaching it, so I'm living it. But my kids are so good at this. No matter how mad I am, they won't take it on. They'll go, like, they know that's my stuff, that's my triggers. And often they'll say, you're going to go process that. Or do you want to go, as opposed to, it's so different. As opposed to, what did I say to upset her? I mustn't do that again. I must be a good child. Self-doubt, but in actual fact, it isn't them, and they know it. But what's so powerful about that is they do the same thing. So they won't come to me and say, you've made me mad and you did this. They'll go, I'm triggered. And then they'll just remove themselves from the situation. So that's exactly it, is to own our stuff and to get to that stage of, you know what, it doesn't matter how mad you are. It's not the fact that your child has just said that. It's not the fact that he didn't pack his school clothes. It's not the fact that he spoke back at you. What is your take on that?
Or that they hit me in public.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So then people will say, okay, well, that doesn't make sense. So I don't know if there's even a stronger way you can explain this. So let's put it in a scenario out there. I'm out at the shops and my child hits me. And now I'm so triggered, and so now I discipline him in public. Okay? How can you possibly say that it's not my child that just made me angry? He hit me.
Yeah.
Let's see. How would you explain that?
You know what? Let me tell you literally something that happened yesterday, and I'm not joking, okay? Yesterday was a celebration, a religious celebration, and we were at a function. And okay, looking at it afterwards, I think my kids had too much sugar. But what landed up happening was my child was upset about something, and they hit me. They hit me in public, and I was very embarrassed. But it had never happened before. Totally caught me off guard, and I knew in the back of my mind, this is an opportunity for growth. This is an opportunity for growth. And I was so ashamed and I was so embarrassed. And like in the moment, you think, oh my God, what are they all thinking about me? It's just horrible. But you know what? The behaviors that could come up could be, I could have shouted at my child. I could have said to them, how dare you do that? You are getting punished. When we get home, oh boy, you're going to get such a punishment. Whatever it is. But I breathed. I noticed what I was feeling very sad. And I decided that it was enough for that day and where we were, and we're going to leave. It's okay. It's enough. We're going to remove ourselves from this overwhelming situation. And that's what we did. And I didn't shout at my child. I didn't judge them. I just told them that I felt really upset. I felt really sad about what happened. And that's okay. And I don't actually care what other people think, because it's not going to help me in any way, really. This is about me and my child and about building our connection. So back to your question. Did I answer the question, or was there something else you wanted to say?
No, you did it a very good. I love that you used a story to explain it. But something else that just popped into my head. So there's people listening to this live, and they are thinking, okay, so that means that children must just get away with very bad behavior. So I really want to make this very clear. When you have been triggered, you will feel this emotional rush in your body, which is what you noticed. And then the worst thing you can possibly do for your child and for yourself is to act and to do something about it. So it's not that you mustn't do something about it. It's about sort yourself out first. I always call it tend to yourself. So it's about sort yourself out first. And then whatever you do will have so much more of an impact. So another thing that I use this a lot in my examples. When my eldest child turned 3, we stopped disciplining. So we stopped timeout, we stopped smacking, and we took away all of that stuff. And if somebody meets my children today, the first thing they say to me is, what on earth have you done? Your children are so polite, they're so kind, they're so compassionate, they're so empathetic. And so it's always for me about the results. It's always for me about the results. And those kids that are being smacked and shouted at and disciplined and the parents are really triggered and not doing their internal work, those are the children that are showing behavioral problems.
That also plays a role in the language element that I brought up, and why I'm so passionate about it, is because how do we speak to our children, and what language do we use? What language are we using? And funnily enough, I attended this talk today by, I think it's a group of mediators. I somehow came across this talk, and I'd love to share what I learned. I thought it was very, very powerful. I just wrote a few points. So this family court magistrate actually spoke today. She in South Africa in the Maj Court. Her name's Gabby Makela, and she was talking about restorative justice for women and for children specifically today. And she said, listen to this: people and children are more inspired to change when we do things with them instead of to them or for them. So I'm going to say it again. People and children are more inspired to change when we do things with them instead of to them or for them. And, after she spoke, I said to her, you basically summed up our presentation in one sentence. So in all my speaking tonight, you don't hear me talking about punishment or discipline. We can discuss that after we've attended to everything else I've spoken about. If there's still an issue, we'll talk about discipline and punishment. But there's so much more that comes before that. How are you willing to Are you willing to ride with your child? And that takes vulnerability, that takes courage, that takes not caring what other parents are going to say. That takes not being ashamed to say, I'm sorry, I made a mistake. That's riding
The
with your child.
irony, and the irony of it is we think we know what people are thinking, but we don't. We really don't know what they're thinking. And, you know, it's so funny because in actual fact, there's a really good chance that they could be thinking, wow, I can't believe how calm that mother has stayed. So we think we need to discipline the child because everyone's watching us, but in actual fact, we actually just need to be the best versions of ourselves. That's all that we really need to do.
Yeah, yeah. And then I said to her, you know, where did you learn this from? Is it from your experience in the courts? And she said, no, it's there's this model called the social discipline window. And have you ever heard of it, Candice? Because I didn't.
No.
Okay, so there's four elements in this window. Think of a window and a pane. Okay, so in the first block, it's called the authoritarian approach, which is very high control with children, but no support. It's discipline, punishment, consequences, but no support whatsoever. The next one is low or no control and no support. It's the neglectful side or the uninvolved approach. The next approach is the high authority. Completely no authority and a lot of support. So it's those, either the parents or employees or whatever, who give a lot of positive reinforcement for negative behavior. It's like a permissive approach, like anything
wow.
just so that you will love me, just so that we'll be best friends and we'll get along. So anything goes. And then the last approach is the high authority but high support. And that's what we aim towards, doing with the child. Being attuned, connected. This is where we connect to them. Accountability, right? I'm responsible for my behaviors and so are you. Reflecting, and this is called the restorative approach. And so this is the realm of restorative justice, where that falls into the high authority, but I'm going to give you high support.
I love that. And I'm so much about owning your stuff. You know, I lost my temper. And then the child is like, okay, well, you're human. Or I broke something and I didn't, you know what I mean? Like for children to just learn to be okay with making mistakes. And we got to model that.
Yeah. Exactly. I don't know if there's any questions that anyone wants to ask as we are chatting.
So I've just had somebody just saying this is very powerful, and I haven't seen any questions coming up. So I just want to chat a minute about, because I want to go back to the theme. So the theme was coping versus thriving, and then we spoke about the rat race, and then so with regards to your everyday life, you spoke about the physical realm. We exhibit certain behaviors. So I would call another word for that, maybe a bit of a habit. For example, for me, I know for a fact that being late and getting out into the car at the right time and getting into bed and being asleep at a certain time is definitely where my biggest growth still lies, because that's where I'm the most triggered, the most ratty, the most. So in your experience, Abby, what behaviors do not serve us in the family system?
There are so many, and I actually wrote a whole list. I mean, swearing, shouting, judging, resenting, belittling, gossiping, drinking, drug usage, avoiding whatever issue there may be, rage, being too ashamed to apologize, living in order to fit in, all of those. And there's so many. Being late, I mean, you're talking about time. I forgot about that. Yeah, being on time. All of those. Being late for things. All of those are behaviors that don't serve the family system. All of those.
Yeah. And then why do you think we continue to do them? Because we're just not aware of them. And how do we become more aware of them?
Look, I think,
Oh, you paused
And it
again.
cut
Continue, sorry. There we
it
go.
cut off a little bit. Sorry, it cut off a bit, but
Okay.
look, it's much easier. It's much easier to fall into those behaviors. It's much easier to fall into those behaviors and to say those things and to do those things. It's easier. It takes a lot of courage and a lot of work to find the other side. But it's worth it. That's all I can say from my side. It is worth it. It's a more fun place to be in, a more free, more inspiring. That's where I find my growth.
And we painted the picture. We painted the picture of the chaotic world and how it doesn't serve us and how horrible it is. And I think it's important to paint the picture of the world where you are doing the work and you're living in the spiritual realm and you really are working on yourself and personal development and noticing your triggers. And for me, it's indescribable. If not just the feeling in my body, the connection and the peace, the inner peace, the outer peace, and how everything just works. Like, you know how you sometimes have days where everything just goes wrong? You don't have those days when you're doing the work and when you're doing the stuff. Everything just is in flow. You just have a beautiful life when you do this work.
Yeah. Less anxiety. Yeah, definitely.
Anxiety is such a big one. Yeah, that's a big one. And we're always on to the next thing and on to the next thing. Okay, so I think we're coming to an end. What is on offer for those you spoke about braving the wilderness.
You know what? I'll tell you exactly what's on offer. I read the most interesting thing. I'll just want to read one paragraph. I just love it so much. Let me just find it. So this book, Braving the Wilderness, it's a really great book. Really recommend it.
Favorite person in the whole world, Brene Brown.
Yeah. And you were discussing like you know that you're living in flow. I mean, for me, if I didn't I'm just imagining now, if I didn't say yes to self-development and to just doing my own growth, I would never have done the parenting course with you. I would never have met you. I wouldn't be here today. So I'm really grateful. Really, it opens up a lot of doors. So she quotes this coach, Pete Carroll, who wrote The Certain Thing in his research. And this is what he writes. There's no question that it's easier to manage fitting in culture. Okay? So there's no question that it's easier to manage fitting in. You set standards and rules. You lead by put up or shut up. But you miss real opportunities, especially helping your team members find their purpose, or think of family members. When you push a fitting in culture, you miss the opportunity to help people find their personal drive, what's coming from their hearts. Leading for true belonging is about creating a culture that celebrates uniqueness. What serves leaders best is understanding your players' best efforts, or as a parent, is to identify their unique gift or contribution. A strong leader pulls players towards a deep belief in themselves. So what I'm saying is what's on offer is being able to acknowledge what does actually make our child unique? What makes them unique? What makes them special? What makes me special as a leader in their life? And there's so much, really. There is.
And it's totally life changing. I coach adults who don't know who they are and they don't know what they have to offer and they don't know where they're going. And if we could just instill in children already where they know who they are and they know that they don't need to fit in, that they rather need to stand out. It comes with a deep sense of self-worth, which we know touches every single aspect of a child.
Yeah. That's exactly. And the work starts with us. Really, that's really the gist of it. And I know it may sound very daunting to a lot of people, but we can control what we do. So at least let's try to do our best, really, before we try and inspire anyone else.
Absolutely. Yeah, and you know what? The scariest part is to take the first step, and once you've done that, the rest is really not as scary. It really is about taking the first step. So thank you so much.
Yeah.
You've been amazing, and your wealth of knowledge, and
Thank
like I said,
you.
the way that when you speak, and the amount of goosebumps I get every single time, and it could be in a message, it could be. I see I'm freezing quite a bit here. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Yeah. So thank you, Abby. You a beautiful soul. You live the work, and you should be super proud of yourself.
And to you. Thank you,
Thank you.
Janice. I really am so happy to have been here. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Cheers.
Thanks. So I'm
Thank
just going
you.
to
Bye.
end this off. Thank you. Cheers. Bye. So thank you to everybody that joined us, and I will see you next week. Every single week, same time, 7:30, Resilience to Your Core podcast with me, Candice Bester. Thanks, guys. Have an awesome evening.